Welcome to the Crystal River Preserve State Park, an environmentally unique and biologically diverse section of Florida's Gulf Coast. The preserve transitions from temperate to subtropical climates. This mild climate, diverse vegetation, and variety of habitat in the preserve provide ideal conditions for biodiversity and species richness, both on the land and in the water. The Crystal River Preserve State Park encompasses 27,500 acres and protects 10 contiguous miles of coastline that has changed little since Spanish explorers arrived in Florida over 500 years ago. One of the things that makes the preserve so unique is that it's divided at a transition point between temperate and subtropical zones and has plant communities that occur in each. For instance, you'll notice more mangroves in the southern portion of the preserve and more black needle rush in the northern portions of the preserve. The estuarine system, which is a combination of fresh water and salt water, is fed fresh water from the springs at the head of 7 separate rivers. It mixes with salt water of the Gulf of Mexico. It all adds up to ideal conditions for biodiversity. In the late 1960s and 1970s, much of Florida, including Crystal River, began to experience growth and development pressure on the land and ecosystem. The addition of a nuclear and coal power plant in 1966, combined with the construction of the Cross Florida Barge Canal, was an economic developer's dream for growth in the area. One of the main local developers back then was Lester Wright. He envisioned 1,700 acres of waterfront residential development. It would include churches, schools, stores, a hospital, and a county park. In 1974, Wright was the first to donate 150 acres along Fort Island Trail to the state of Florida, and thus began the start of the Crystal River Preserve. The Dixie Shores and the island's development as it's known today is still part of the Crystal River Preserve. Remnants of some of the dredge and fill operations can be seen along the Loop Lake Trail and the trail at Redfish Hole. Fortunately for citizens and visitors to the area, the state of Florida recognized the value of acquiring and preserving these lands. In the 1990s, natural areas along coastal Citrus County were identified as a priority to acquire under the Florida Springs Coastal Greenway Initiative. Large parcels of salt marsh estuaries, hydric hammocks, spring runs, mangrove islands, and culturally significant archaeological sites were purchased to preserve the natural landscape of the coast. The park is an important southern terminus for migratory waterfowl such as the brown pelican, little blue heron, snowy egret, tricolored heron, and yellow-crowned night heron. In addition, the preserve protects the home of imperiled reptiles like the ornate diamond-backed terrapin, gopher tortoise, and 4 species of sea turtle. Here, the preserve is shown in green, stretching from Power Line Road in the north to Homosassa in the south. Surrounding the Crystal River Preserve is an additional 18,000 acres of pristine underwater seagrass meadows that extend many miles into the Gulf of Mexico. These highly productive ecosystems serve as a nursery grounds for many commercial and recreational fisheries. The aquatic systems surrounding the park are managed by staff at St. Martin's Marsh Aquatic Preserve out of the Crystal River Office Complex. To meet the challenges of managing such a large area with limited staff and resources, the Florida Park Service works in partnership with the St. Martin's Marsh Aquatic Preserve staff to achieve resource management goals. The preserve provides habitat for an abundance of wildlife, 58 species of reptiles and amphibians, 34 species of mammal, 186 species of birds, and various invertebrates. Citrus County is home to over 1,000 species of plants, and over 270 of those have been recorded in the park. Part of the job of the staff here is to maintain the natural systems by removing exotic plants and animals.
In the Crystal River Preserve, we work to get rid of plants that don't belong in the state of Florida that were introduced. This is a great example of a plant that has taken over the Little Homosassa and the Salt Marsh Estuary. This is a Brazilian pepper, so from Brazil originally. doesn't have any natural predators here in Florida, so there's no way for nature to take care of itself. So the park works diligently to remove and eradicate Brazilian pepper so that the native mangroves, cedars, palm trees can establish in the habitat.
Targeted herbicide application destroys the invader without affecting surrounding plants or animals. Fire is the single most effective ecosystem maintenance tool of Florida's upland land managers.
The reason we burn the woods is because nature has been burning them for millions of years. Unfortunately, in recent history, we've chopped up the landscape and these woodlands into smaller pieces to protect things that we care about, such as roads, schools, hospitals, and other parts of infrastructure that are important to us. Because of that, and because we have to live with the land, we insert fire into these areas to mimic what nature had done historically, with lightning for thousands and millions of years. By doing this, we trigger the same responses that were triggered historically for the plants and the animals, and benefit the species richness for all those organisms that depend on fire and have those adaptations.
A significant portion of the preserve is only accessible by boat. However, 5 public access points for hiking, biking, or fishing are easily accessible by car. 5 trails have been designated as stops on the Great Florida Birding Trail. The 7-mile loop trail starting less than a mile from this office is great for biking or walking, passing through many of the coastal community types in this area. We hope this film has helped you understand the importance of how Crystal River Preserve State Park protects these unique ecosystems. Our future depends on passing this knowledge on to the next generations of stewards who will maintain the quality of the work done so far.
On behalf of the Florida Park Service, we thank you for visiting Crystal River Preserve State Park. And we hope you'll enjoy one of our other award-winning state parks in the near future.